Resolution Center. Just out of curiosity, has anyone heard of the NCRC before? Yeah,
I'm a member.
couple hands. Very cool. Yeah, so you might have perhaps taken one of our trainings, attended one of our community circles or community dialogues. The NCRC since 1989 has been providing mediation services, but all other types of services to the community. My role in the agency is, again, as the Director of Community Mediation. And my experience for this last 15, 16 years has been mediating, presenting, training as well. I really enjoy working with communities. So whenever I get these invitations to talk to people in my community, I'm always very happy to do so. And so I had a PowerPoint that I would like to share, and it's already ready to go. Can I be the host? Oh, I can share my screen. I'm going to share my screen right here.
Yes.
I don't need to be the host. There we go. It's going to come up.
Yes.
In just a second. You can all see that?
Now we can, yes, we're good.
Perfect. All right. I hope that you can all see that.
Actually, is there a way that we can just see the slide, Veronica, and not the?
Yes, I'm clicking on the slideshow.
Okay.
Option here. There we go. Perfect. Yay.
Thank you.
So what I'm going to talk about today is 10 tips for managing conflict, right? I think that in general, conflict is something that is always present in our lives, whether it's in our personal lives or in our professional lives. But, really this last year and coming into this year, I think it's been extra hard for everyone, right? Because of the grand political divide that we've experienced in our society, but also because of this pandemic, right? We've had to be home and secluded and we're losing a lot of that connections and communications with people we appreciate and love. But the reality is that coming in, going back and being able to see each other a little bit more, maybe through Zoom, we're still divided in some ways, right? Again, whether it's because of different political perspectives and views, but also because of the pandemic too, right? Some people want to get vaccinated, some people don't want to get vaccinated. And so all of these issues, added to just our normal everyday conflict, I think it makes it more challenging for us to communicate. And so what we're going to talk about is this 10 tips for managing conflict. And it's really where do we start, right? When we are talking to someone where we are in opposite sides, right? At opposite ends. And everything starts with clear, effective communication. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to talk through them. Please feel free to add, or if you want to make a note on any of these tips, I welcome your comments too. We're going to start with this quote because we love quotes, and it says, conflict is inevitable, the source of all growth, and an absolute necessity if one is to be alive. Do you all agree with that first piece? Yeah. Conflict is going to happen, right? Regardless of what is happening, it's always going to be there. It's always going to be present. But what we want to focus on is how do we enter into the conflict, right? And we want to enter it with integrity, respect, and some degree of confidence and hope. And that's what our agency, the NCRC, is all about, empowering individuals in our communities with the right tools to enter into conflict in a way that is more respectful, but also more inclusive, in a way that is going to help you manage and de-escalate conflict. The first tip says, work on trying to be thoughtful instead of trying to prove that you're right. See the little diagram there? The gentleman seems like he's choosing to go through the think tank door instead of the shout louder than people who disagree with you tank. So trying to be thoughtful instead of trying to be prove that you're right. What do you think I mean by being thoughtful? What does that mean? If I ask you, let's be more thoughtful about this, what do you think that means? What does that mean to you? Anyone?
Veronica, everyone is muted, so they can't respond.
Okay.
One person said valid versus right or wrong, perspective taking.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for looking at the chat for me. Yes, absolutely. It's really putting yourselves in a position where you're able to understand the perspective of the other person, right? I think that when there is conflict and we are on opposite ends of that conflict with someone, it's really easy for us to kind of get stuck in this position. Well, I'm right, because I say so, because I read, or because I saw, and the other person feels the same way. But when we enter into conflict with that energy of high energy of trying to prove that we're right, that person's going to respond the same way, right? And so being thoughtful really means just to kind of pause and really think through, okay, well, where is this person coming from? I want to know where this perspective comes from. Instead of trying to prove to that you're right. It also when we think about this tip is to be inclusive too, right? You want to be inclusive of the person's perspective, but also the way that they're communicating with you and what their opinion of the situation is too. Any thoughts on tip number 1 that we want to bring up on the chat box? And I'm looking towards the side here because I'm looking at the little pictures as well. Okay, tip number 2, and it's going to come up in just a sec here. There we go. Acknowledge that you have the right to your feelings and that it is okay for you to be upset. So acknowledge that you have the right to your feelings instead of that it's okay for you to be upset. Have you ever been in a position where someone tells you, calm down? Why are you so upset? That's not a big deal. Come on, you're making a big deal out of this. Can you think of a time when that happened to you? Yeah. How does that feel? Think about how it made you feel, right? And it doesn't feel nice, but also I think it diminishes the way that the conflict is impacting you, right? Conflict impacts people in different ways. We could be having the same conflict, but maybe for the other person is something small and they're like, well, I have this problem, I'm going to go through life and I'll be fine. And maybe for me, it's really weighing me down, right? Maybe it's really hurtful. Maybe it's something that's very deep and personal for me, especially with interpersonal conflicts, right? Whether it's with family or people we love, when there's conflict, we get really hurt, right? It hurts us deeply. And so acknowledging that we have a right to feel the way and letting the person know that it is okay to feel upset or angry or stressed or whatever it is, it's okay. I see a chat comment coming in.
Yes. Can you clarify feelings versus thoughts? I feel like it's an out. It's not a feeling. Can you recommend how to move feelings into our thought accomplishment culture? I'm not sure exactly.
Can you also recommend how to move feelings?
Yeah, I'm not.
They have value into our thought. So I feel like it's an excuse versus I think. So a thought is what's happening up here, right? Mm-hmm. So we are confronted with the situation and what we're thinking is up here. What we're feeling is in here, right? How that thought is making us feel, right? I'm not quite sure. Can you also recommend how to move feelings that they have value into our thought. Okay, I see. I understand.
Yeah.
So, feelings have value, because it demonstrates, one, that you are human, right? That you have feelings. It demonstrates that you can show empathy towards the other person as well. So, just saying, well, I'm angry, and I don't want to talk about this. That can be an excuse sometimes, right? But if the person is really feeling it, I think we have to allow the person to express that, right? To say that they're feeling, especially for men. I think sometimes men are conditioned to not show their feelings, right? It's easier for men, I think, to say to young men, men don't show feelings, men don't cry. And so, but we have to allow them to show their feelings as well. And if the conflict is impacting them, they have a right to feel that way, right? The worst thing that you can say to someone is, don't make a big deal out of this, or calm down. Well, first of all, one, no one's going to calm down. Nobody in the history of the world calms down when you tell them to calm down, right? But you have to allow them to show that emotion, express those feelings. Any other thoughts on number 2? Okay, let's go to number 3. And here we go. Let go of believing that you own the only truth of the situation. Let go of believing that you own the only truth. Conflict comes when two people are looking at the same thing, but they're seeing different things, right? We're interpreting it in different ways because our experiences have created this lens, right, through which we see life, right? And our lenses are different. And conflict comes because I'm looking at one thing and the other person is looking at the other thing, right? And so letting go of believing that you own the only truth means that you only accept and value this lens that you see in life through, right? And we're not recognizing and validating and acknowledging the lens of the other person. And so letting go that you own the only truth of the situation goes back to tip number 1, right? Which was to be inclusive of the other side too, right? Be inclusive of their truth too. Regardless of what you see, regardless of what you, your position is, there's always 2 sides to this story, right? And being able to allow the other person to tell you what their truth is helps you move forward. When you're stuck in your position, the other person is going to be stuck in their position too. So allowing that person to express their truth and you acknowledging it, that you heard, that you understood, not that you agree, but you acknowledging that you heard, that you listened, helps you move the conflict forward. Any thoughts on tip number 3? Okay, we'll go to number 4.
Well, I think we have one. Often we try to make a point by showing that, we own the facts by putting out some facts and saying, okay, these facts prove the point. But now we've been living in a world of fake facts and fake truth. So how does that get navigated?